Hello, hello, my friends. Again, I say hello and welcome to another conversation in in our diaspora. Where again, as I say, we look at the things that we identify with that will benefit our people, the things that we provide service, information, product, and mentorship. And as we grow as a community, we expand because we find that there's so much more that needs to be done. And this afternoon, again, we are going to bring back to you for an update on our community, none other than a champion of our diaspora. And I'm going to kick it over to my co-host, Dale Brown, Secretary to the Cricket Hall of Fame, Dale Brown, to introduce our special diaspora champion and take us through our ropes. Welcome to the SosoBone Media Network.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Professor Trevor. Again, as you mentioned, we have another installment of our Legacy Series, and we are honored to have Mr. Neville Bell join us again. He's the president of the Mid-Atlantic All Boys chapter for Cornwall College. And as many of you would know, and for those who don't know, Neville is one of the most dynamic and influential leaders within the Jamaican diaspora. His outstanding work with the Mid-Atlantic chapter, as we mentioned before, of which he is president, is truly exemplary. And today, he joins us to provide an update on the state of Cornwall College and the wider community, and to discuss the impact of the recent hurricane and how it has affected the school community, and to share his insights on different initiatives and the ongoing recovery efforts.
Okay.
So welcome again, Mr. Neville Bell.
Thank you very much for having me again, sir.
Yes.
Appreciate
Now,
it.
first up, what was the initial impact of the hurricane on Cornwall College, both in terms of infrastructure and the well-being of the students and staff?
Yes, obviously, significant damage was felt by the school. We had buildings that lost the roofs completely. If you go to the lower school, the seventh grade block, which is a three-story building, the very top of that building is 4 classrooms. And if you're flying by a drone or if you're flying overhead, coming into the island and happen to look down, you can see the classrooms inside the rooms because the roofs are completely gone. The entire pitch is gone. If you go to the upper school, we also lost the roof over the upper school staff room, the computer lab, the server room, which is where the whole heartbeat of the school's infrastructure for IT is kept. We lost that, so we lost some equipment there as well. But as a result of the hurricane, what really happened is that school had to shut down. No power or water until about Tuesday of last week, where we're about 60% restored in power. Water is across the campus now, but it's about 60% of the campus that has power. Now, it's not just that some of the lines were down, but even some of the areas where the lines were still up, because you have exposed rooms, you don't want, and rain is still falling, you don't want to have those come back on. So they kind of separated that out from it and basically just leave that out. So as a result of that, though, the students had not been back in school. So if you think about it, from October 28th till last week, we didn't have any students coming in. Last week, what they started doing is they brought in the 11th graders, the sixth formers, which is grade 12 and 13. They brought those students back in, and they're utilizing the 8th grade and 9th grade blocks in order to house them at the school and allow them to actually start doing their prep for exam, because these are the students that have external exams coming up. So they want to make sure they're at least at school. To give you an additional impact, though, of what it means to have suffered not only the damage at Cornwall College, but what has happened in the students' lives. Of the 300 plus students that are slated to return to school, only about 155 came in. So almost 50% of the student body did not return when school reopened for their group, for their cohort. So we're trying to find ways to make sure we can get them back. We need to identify what is happening in their lives. It is a transportation issue. Bear in mind, several communities are still marooned, are difficult to come out of. And so we basically have to see how we can help them get to us. But that's really what's been happening. So this week, we're looking at the 10th graders coming in. And as we can widen and reopen some of the buildings or some of the classrooms, we'll bring other students back.
Well, thank you, Neville. That is a serious task ahead, as you have just pointed out. And in light of what you've just said, has an engineering or structural report been done as of yet? And what does it reveal about actual repairs and the rebuilding that is going to be required?
So actually, a couple of different firms have done the studies at the school. National Education Trust sent their people in, the government's engineers, structural engineers, to do an assessment. We haven't yet seen the report, and that's forthcoming because remember, the government has to, it's a public school, so anything that's going to happen with them, the government has to sign off. So we haven't yet seen the report. I do know, for instance, they haven't indicated any building that, let's say, would need to be condemned, which is a good thing. But they've indicated that what was there before, the type of roof was there before, would not necessarily be what they would recommend going forward, so as not to have to repeat this when we have, future weather events. So no full report yet, but what we do know is at this point, nothing that they've indicated says we have to demolish any building, and we're just waiting for the report to see what we can do about the roofs that there and how we're going to actually replace those and with what kind of material, slabbing, pitch roof with zinc or whatever that may be. So we're looking at all those options, but the government will have to be the guide.
Yeah, well, I've been following the press releases.
Mm-hmm.
That takes place on a weekly basis, sometime every 2 days, by the government. And I know that the emphasis is to build back better.
Mm-hmm.
That some of these buildings that they had, that, for example, the roofing that had no straps, when they build now, they're gonna have straps on those roofs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And yes, the rebuilding effort is not gonna be a 1 year, 2 year. It's gonna take, I think there was 100 out of 149 schools that had no roofs.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. Partial or fully, yes.
Yes. So we know that it's, that we're starting first now with the Band-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Band-Aid has to do is immediate attention. But after that, you get everybody undercover with the tarpaulins, put the tarpaulin over top so they stop looking at the stars, while they're sleeping. You find that the long term now is where we really have to start investing, in our schools and our associations, because it's not just the things that we used to have. As he says, we have to think in terms of having tanks.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a secure water supply,
Mm-hmm.
if and when the next one comes.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that Mother Nature have a habit of repeating itself.
Mm-hmm.
And coming back maybe stronger, because Beryl was one number.
Mm-hmm.
And Melissa came along and said she wanted to do better than Beryl.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
And that, you said the river tried to follow the same track over year after year.
Mm-hmm.
The next one might be looking to follow the same track that was softened up by Melissa.
Well, true.
Okay, so that is
an unusual turn, yes.
Yes. So I am looking at the second marketing effort that we are gonna do now. After we said that everybody is sort of fed for the night, there's nobody hungry. They say, okay, you had sandwich, but let us open the soup kitchen tomorrow
There you go.
so they can get soup and then get jerk chicken because there are people with the complaining that they tired of bully beef.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. In days gone by, it was the, what they call it, the dirty gal. Yeah. Yeah, what's that, mackerel, right? Yeah. Mhm.
You know,
Yeah. So, never in terms of supplies, because we know with the reopening of schools, supplies becoming high demand.
Mhm.
Can you update us on the shipment of supplies and any ongoing donations for another shipment?
Okay.
And how has it impacted the shared wealth? Because as Trevor just mentioned, 149 school has been affected, and we know Cornwall is not concerned just about Cornwall. We share the wealth.
There you go. So even before the storm, we had, as part of our ongoing effort to assist other schools through our Share the Wealth initiative, where we target IT equipment for multiple schools, not just Cornwall College. We had a planned shipment. Now, this shipment wasn't going to be as large as previous shipments. We were looking more in terms of probably about 8 crates of items
Mhm.
um, to go down to Jamaica. Um, as a result of the storm, though, we obviously shifted focus slightly. Not only increased what we were going to do on the share the wealth side of things, but we also expanded it to have the disaster relief component to it, and basically ended up filling a container 2 Saturdays ago and
Okay.
shipping that down. So we did that with JAMLEO, which is a Jamaican American law enforcement organization. There's a fraternity of police officers who are Jamaican in the NYPD. We
Mhm.
had their assistance. They also supplied some goods, some churches, some items that they uh, consigned to us as well.
Mhm.
And we did that at Millwright Logistics over in New Jersey, where we gathered, packed the crates, and shipped them down. Of course,
Mhm.
Dennis shipping played a significant role again
Yes.
in terms of helping us get it there. And
Mhm.
of course, Sandhouse Foundation on the back end will be handling the costs of clearing and then basically making sure everything is handled appropriately once it gets to the other end.
Yes.
The different thing that we did this time around, though, is not just that we consigned items to the specific schools that we were dealing with. The items that are more of the disaster relief items, we didn't go to ODPEM with these. What we did was we consigned them to NET, the National Education Trust. And the
Right.
idea behind that is that we are going to let the NET direct it to the schools that have been reaching out to them and say
Mhm.
to them, these are the things that we need. And so NET, once they get the items, or I'm going to try to set it up so when we go down, Trevor Tomlinson, Michael Williams, and myself will most likely be on hand. When we go
Mhm.
down to Jamaica, when a container is cleared from the port to go to the school, our intention is to have some volunteers there, and we're going
Mhm.
to try to just put together some packages
Yes.
and get those sent out.
Yep.
Royal Caribbean actually donated 2 generators to
Okay.
Cornwall colleges and other things to other schools as well.
Mhm.
We have the band-aid, as you put it. We have the tarpaulins for the schools for several roofs that are gone. Cornwall obviously will need a few, and obviously a few other schools will benefit from that as well. And
Yeah,
other
maybe,
people brought in things like blankets, additional tarps, even sleeping bags, and so on. So that's already on its way. And we're right now trying to add some more things. People are reaching out to me, even with hospital beds,
mm-hmm.
examination table for pediatrics, those type of things. And we're going to have to see how we can help move that down because it doesn't quite fit with what we do for schools, but it's something that the country needs and schools and
Well,
hospitals or clinics no close by needs. And if we can get it to them, we're certainly going to try to do that.
well, you have expanded from school to community.
Yes, but we still have to be careful about our charter. So,
Well, you know,
but yes, we have somewhat expanded.
yeah, because I know that one of the things that I've talked about that needs to be established is more clinics
Hmm.
Okay, so that when a Montego Bay, when a hospital goes down, okay, you are not left high and dry because we know that helicopters had to be ferrying people from Montego Bay to Mandeville's Hospital, all of those things. The information was being fed in back to us. So we know that we have to make more arrangements so that response is closer to where something might happen. Okay, so we have to, so learning from that is not only for the government, you know, but for us. I talk to people about the water situation. That lady said that, you know, that she has not a bath in 7 or 8 days and she can't even get clean water to wash her hands.
Wow.
Okay, so when you get
That's
that,
for the grace of God, go on,
yes, so that type of information is not supposed to be lost. Okay, it is for us to remember that the next time we hear that there's a storm coming, that we say, okay, we need to get a lot of bottles and bottle up water. You know, because while you might say go to high ground and to evacuate, well, after you finish evacuating and you come out, there's nothing of it, you know. You have no resources.
That is true.
And that is part of the education, not only for Jamaica, but for the diaspora. Okay, that has to be a part of the education, because I hear that we have water tanks coming in, and people are saying, Trevor, everybody that we see with water, they're selling water. Okay, and they get upset. And if a tanker comes in, they have no containers. You know,
that is
no
true.
containers to actually collect enough water to serve them to 2 or 3 days. So just those plastic containers, like gas tanks, all of those things are needed. You know, so if the tanker comes in, you can come with your 2 kids, fill up the container, go back to cook your food and to wash your face and brush your teeth.
Well, the other thing that people need to be also mind, first of all, I hope they're doing the boiling of the water, because the first set of water that comes out of that pipe will not be something you'll be able to use for quite a while. So I hope they're boiling the water. But even beyond that, there are water filtration systems. There's a couple on the container that went down. I'm trying to target getting some more, so that when we do our next shipment, we can actually expand it, give it to some schools,
Yes.
so that when students come on campus, they can fill their bottles there. So, you know, that the type that you would see in a gym, where you go in and you can just put a big bottle underneath it and it fills it quickly.
Yes.
And those are the type of things I'd love to see. And those are the things I'm trying to get, and hopefully be able to share those with the community. Because if you get it to the school, the community benefits.
Oh, yes.
So that's really the way we think about it, and that's the way we stay within our charter. So we have to think about it rather strategically. But you know, you talk about, you know, learning different things, and one of the things that I try to do is identify a current situation, learn from it, and then identify the solution, so that for the next time around, you don't have that problem rearing its head again.
Yes.
It started, I'll give you an example with the drone program. We encountered a situation where the cops lost a wanted man in the bushes. They said, sounds like you need drones. Well, out of that came our drone program, where we teach kids how to fly drones. Now, one of the things that became apparent immediately after the storm is that I need to get them some drones themselves, because one of the things that was not available to them are drones with thermal sensors, so they can fly over and identify someone who might be stuck somewhere that you can't necessarily see with the naked eye, and try to rescue them. So that's one of my targets. I want to get them some drones that you can use, fly over, identify individuals, and then point to them. But let's think about something else we're learning. You talk about the water problem and the backup of the water. Well, what are we hearing now? 6 people have already died from leptospirosis.
Yes.
So I'm not just looking for water boots. I'm looking for deep waders. So the deep waders are the type you see when, you know, someone is up here and they're fishing in the stream, and they're standing in the middle of the river, and the water's all the way up to the chest.
All the way up to their chest.
All the way up to the chest, but not getting in.
Yes.
I would love a bunch of those, and I've reached out to a few companies, hope they respond. but I would love to have a bunch of those. And then we would
Yes.
send them down. My first primary target, though, would be the first responders, people who go into the areas either to help or
Mhm.
people who are going in to clean the drains,
Yes. Yes.
because they're the ones that are most susceptible to have to handle these type of things.
Mhm.
So, there are targets that we have in terms of what we are doing here as an organization, that I think will allow us to put people in a better position long term by being proactive about handling the situation.
Mhm.
Thanks, Neville. How are the various chapters and the Cornwall College Foundation contributing to the recovery? And what coordinated efforts
Mhm.
are underway now?
Okay, so we typically have within the Cornwall College community, let's say a president's council where all the presidents of all the chapters come together and they meet. In since the storm though, I've started a all hands call. It's held on a Wednesday, and basically it is all the chapters, the foundation, and actually just Cornwallians at large. And even a few guests have come on as well. And the idea behind that is we need all hands on deck to handle the
Yes.
situation. We can't
Yes.
do it individually. Yes, your chapter is very successful. Yes, your chapter is very successful. But you can't attack this big problem by yourself. So let's come together, come to an agreement as to how we can identify the solution, and let's work at the solution. You can talk for the next 10 years and don't fix it, but you need to act if you're going to
Mhm.
fix it now.
Mhm.
So we have started a coordinated effort to actually identify how we can pool our funds. We received a contact from someone who was targeting looking at Mount Alvernia to do their roof. This is an alumnus of Mount Alvernia,
Mhm.
and she reached out to me through the school to say, "Hey, I was told to take a look at Cornwall College as well, and let's see how we can work together to get the schools back up." Because even though the government has actually sent out their people to do the study, we don't yet have any indication as to the timeline that they've identified to actually send the repair people in. And that is a problem. So it could be tomorrow, but they haven't communicated that. So if it comes down to it, we'll probably see if we can be proactive in getting the repairs done as a team and as a alumni group, as a body. And
Mhm.
this is worldwide. Everybody's coming together.
Mhm.
See if we can get the work targeted, get it done, and just really push to really solve this problem and get all these kids, not just the 13, 12, 11, 10 graders back in, but 7 through 9 as well.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Neville, you mentioned Mount Alvernia,
Mhm.
but you said someone contacted you through them. Is it that Mount Alvernia initiated this contact?
So the person went to Mount Alvernia, as I mentioned, they're an alumnus of the school, and looked at their situation. They wanted to
Mhm.
help. They wanted to. This is what they do. This is their business, and they wanted to see if they could get Mount Alvernia's roof on. When they got there, though, Mount Alvernia's principal said, "Hey, our brothers next door need some help." And she walked right across, brought her crew over, and they did their assessment, and we've been discussing it ever since.
Good. Good.
Okay. So that would now include private donations in addition to what the chapters and the foundation is working on.
That is correct. And we would simply collaborate with them. It most likely would be that, their team would do the work and we simply cover costs of whatever material or some labor.
Mhm.
But at least it would get us back up and running quicker. Because right now, because of the way the roof is set for the seventh grade block, tarpon isn't really much of an option, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
The initial assessment is that you can't do slab, it wouldn't support it. Um,
Mhm.
but still, we need to figure out how we're going to do that. So while we're waiting for all of that, and while we're waiting for the government to say this is what you need to do, we want to get all our ducks in a row because one of the things I'm concerned about is that the supply chain is going to dry up. And all that stuff that you need to do the repairs, you could have all the money in the world, it's just not available to get it
Yes.
done.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So in addition to that potential collaboration, are there
Mhm.
any other um, new collaborations being explored?
Several. Um, I think you and I have spoken in the past about, well, especially coming out of this, the boarding house, Cornwall stopped boarding back in the late 1980s. Um, Currently what they do is if there's like the track season is in or the Costa Cup season, football season, track season is in, the athletes will stay on campus as if in camp.
Mm,
And they stay at the boarding house, but they only use the second floor, and it's only about, anywhere from 20 to up to 40 beds.
mm.
But we actually have the capacity to do 124 on
Okay.
between the second and the third floors at Cornwall College.
Mhm.
So part of what I've asked the same individual to look at is to give me a quote to get that boarding house back up and running. We know we need a new skin on the roof. It's a flat tar roof. We need it resealed. There are some windows that did blow out in the storm. We need that sealed, and we need to, renovate the bathrooms a little bit to make them, let's call it livable, and aesthetically pleasing. They are functional, but you need to be aesthetically pleasing. So
Mhm.
I'm working on some collaborations to get some bunk beds into Cornwall College. And really, it's not just about getting the bunk beds back there. There's a lot of students, sorry, who have become homeless as a
Uh-huh.
result of this. We haven't yet quantified it. I don't think the school has actually confirmed a number. Um, but you have students who lost a parent prior to the storm. One in particular lost a parent during COVID, and the other parent died during a storm.
Mm.
They have younger siblings. So just imagine that person's life right now. You have students whose home didn't just lose a roof, all four walls have been blown down. So we need to find a way to help the students to have a safe space and allow the parents the freedom of that burden of worry that their kids are safe while they're trying to get their lives back together. So when the son comes home on a weekend to help mommy out or help daddy out, they're in a space that is now safer than the way he left it to come to school.
Yes,
But
yes.
the mostly we need to make sure that they're also getting their education, because if we think about what happened to these kids, let's think of the 11th and 12th graders. Several years ago, COVID. Now, the storm. If you take those two things together, this 6 year span that these students are in school, they will have only been on campus for about 3 years. They're pretty
Mm,
much out for close to 2 years under COVID.
mm.
So we have to now find a way to make sure we shorten that and get them all the help we can, get everything into their hands that needs to get into their hands, and make it easier for them to get back to school and be as normal as possible. What this storm did is nowhere close to putting anybody in a normal space. But if we can give them as normal as possible life, I think we'll have done our job.
Yes, I had a conversation relative to it. I might have not mentioned it today as to the cultural, the season of
Mm-hmm.
culture. Right now, we're talking about Thanksgiving in the USA,
Mm-hmm.
but a month from now, we're talking about Christmas in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's a physical reaction that we have to the physical structures,
Mm-hmm.
but then we have the mental
Mm-hmm.
space
Mm-hmm.
that is going to be there for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And they know it's December,
Mm-hmm.
and they know it's Christmas and New Year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that void has to be addressed.
And it's already a time that, historically speaking, comes with a lot of depression for a lot of people anyway.
Yes,
So think about it, how exponentially impacted that it is going to be for them.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it might not be a permanent reaction, but the next shipments are supposed to go down to address the mental, you know? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we don't just say that we are rich in Jamaica, but toys is something that people are accustomed to. Parents want to do something special for the child at Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there is expectations. birthday come around, can they have ice cream and a cake?
Mm.
I mean, it's not about getting the building back. It's getting the culture back. The mental aspect that it might ruin. I mean, I've heard stories about it start raining and the child want to know, Mama, is Melissa coming back?
I heard that story as well, yes.
Okay. So we have to know that there is a pressure, and not only on the adults when they lose everything and they're rubbing their hands to their head. They took that all I have is the clothes on my back. And the child is saying, we don't have a home anymore, Mommy. We don't have any bed anymore. I mean, they come and they see an empty space. And all we ask ourselves, are we preparing to deal with that? Because this generation, they'll never forget.
No. Yeah, I shudder at the thought sometimes when I sit down and just think of, a child laying and looking up. You
Yes.
almost want to get them a telescope so they can study the skies because
Yes.
they're just looking up at it in the middle of the night. I never lived through a hurricane. The worst experience I had was June 12 floods. And I can only imagine what this is like. I never had to hear the roar of the wind or it sounded like, cats fighting. So I can only imagine what these kids are going through, having had to live through it after experiencing a different kind of trauma that came through COVID and so on. I'm sorry. So it's something that we have to address. The mental impact of this is something that is significant and must be addressed by us.
And I think along that line, I look at how we are organized in our diaspora, and I say that now we need to have after the initial reaction, we need to have a town hall meeting setting, where people can actually have a chance to express themselves. Okay? It's not enough that they say, okay, I donated. If there's grief in the village, we have to be able to share in the grief.
And in the healing.
And promote the healing. Okay, we have to have our 9 night up here for those who are passed, because they cannot really have 9 night down there because the churches are gone. We need to have our prayer service up here, addressing the spiritual response to what is happening to our people, because we know that a lot of praying was taking place when Melissa was out there causing havoc, A lot of praying was taking place. I mean, I see people coming back to the airports and they say that they're in the hotel. And people who never used to go to church are praying like crazy.
Yeah. Near I got to the, yeah?
Yes. So I'm just saying that we see how the world has responded. From Spain sending down hospital, compact hospital, Canada sending down hospital, people donating, getting calls from my Trini friends about what can we do, because they realize that this Melissa was a I would say a sample of the flood. A sample of the flood. And it never rained for 40 days and 40 nights. But if it had been 40 days and 40 nights, we would have to pray that we had a ark.
Well, we pretty much got 40 inches in almost in a day. If you really think about it. So, the 40 still becomes relevant. When you think about what happened, one of the things I point out to even my colleagues at the office is that the impacted parishes, St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, etc. This is not only the tourism center pretty much of the island, it's also the breadbasket.
Yes, the
So
last.
one of my greatest fears is that the attention span gets short and
Mm.
people forget, because Christmas comes around here or Thanksgiving comes around here, that there are people who a year from now still will not have fully recovered from this storm. Um, and by the way, they might not have recovered by the time the next hurricane season starts.
Okay.
So that's something that needs to be considered as well. So there needs to be an expediting of the assistance. Um, I know there will be supply chain issues. I hope that's being addressed aggressively by the government. We'll try to do our part to get things from here so as not to disrupt the flow of what is already there. Um, so it's something that we need to be aware of, but we can do other things while we're doing that. We can walk and chew gum,
Yes.
um, helping the students, putting together a mental health package with professionals that know how to deal with these things are
Mm.
things that we must do and do so aggressively in order to make sure that we are capturing all the trouble spots ahead of time and not
Mm.
wait to react to a crisis from a child or whatever before we say, well, if I'd known, I would have. No, you should have anticipated. So let's make sure we put some plans in place to do that.
Yeah, we need a new list to be made now. You
Mm-hmm.
see, the first one was the operation.
Mm-hmm.
But now we talk about the therapy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? We need a new list. We need the Diamond Cunningham's list, Dale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We need a list that deal with the details of the personal relationship that people normally have. People are telling me, my friends are saying over in content, people lost more than their house.
Mm-hmm.
Where their house used to be is now a lake.
That is true. I've seen the videos.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that the water is not going down,
It's coming
the
up.
water is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So these people do not talk about going back and rebuilding their home.
Mm-hmm.
They have lost their land. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so,
And some of these are in brand new developments too.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. So it is a challenge that we have to make sure that we do not let it slip off the radar, you know. And that
Mm-hmm.
is why a follow-up from you adds to the information that is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because while we might be talking to our local people, but there are people who do not have a direct relationship with anybody in Jamaica who are alarmed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when you say Spain has done something, that is supposed to be the first step, whether it be Spain or the diaspora.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because yes, you have an hospital down there, but after they leave the hospital, their health situation might have been addressed.
Mm-hmm.
But the major part of their needs, the other 90% is still there waiting
Still
to be
there.
addressed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
And
true.
we have to make that message loud and clear to our diaspora, to our friends, okay, that the list changed. The last communication I got from Washington was, okay, the humanitarian drop-off list, Friday was the last drop-off day for the drop-off points. From this point onwards now, the independent organizations now can do as much as they want.
Mm-hmm.
But based on the needs list they sent out, if they said they wanted 50,000 tarpaulins, maybe they got the 50,000 tarpaulins.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But there's a brand new list now. After the roof is covered, we say, well, we need mattresses, we need earbeds, we
Mm-hmm.
need cots.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Which were not on the original list.
That is true. Right.
Okay? So we need a new list to look at the second level needs now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? And we have to communicate that out so that even as people say, okay, what do we do next? So, well, we need to get this type of equipment. We need to get some people back so they can cook food because they lost everything. They need pots and pans.
Mm.
They need stove and plates. They need they need propane tanks so they can go and cook. because those are not being filled right now.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
And
You know, World Food Kitchen reached 1 million meals served
yeah.
yesterday or the day before.
And the next day,
1 million meals served in an
and the
island
next
of
week,
3 million.
and the next week you need another million.
I need another million. Yep.
Yes. It's not a
Yeah.
permanent fixture.
And I don't think people realize, we're just at the beginning of this crisis, because if you look up at the trees, you might have been able to, a week ago, a month ago, you might have been able to climb a tree and pick a breadfruit. There's nothing on the trees.
Naked
You can't
trees,
eat a mango. There's
you know?
nothing on the west side of the country. Everything is blown off. I'm starting to see some foliage come back.
Mhm.
In some of the videos, people zoom in and say, boy, where there's life, there's hope. Um, but when you look at it just for what it is, people need to understand that this is a multi-year effort. And like
Yes.
I said, my fear is that people will just stop caring, or not think of the urgency of it. Simple things like books, school supplies.
Yes.
Students are going to need that. Parents who, right before September, they went out and spent the last money so their child can get the uniform and the school supplies.
Mhm.
No, they have to both replace the roof. No, they still have to give them school supplies. So we need to help them with that. My list is long. Um, I want some drones for the police and for the fire brigade. They need to have the capability of doing heat sensors so they can actually thermal sensors so they can actually, do rescue in a more effective way. Um, I want to make sure I have enough beds so that students who are not housed currently have a
Mhm.
place to lay their head and go to sleep and sleep comfortably that night. And
Mhm.
for the good ones, that are really the ones that will, mommy's child, will worry that mommy's at home and maybe not as safe as he is at Cornwall College. But I want to make sure that, at least they have that. Um, and all the other things that we're trying to, I want to make sure that we get it to them and get it to them in a way that they know that they are cared for. And
Yes.
let the parents be parents, but actually worry about the home
Yes.
while we take care of their child for them, and give them that mental break,
Yes.
before a lot of them reach their breaking point, because that will come too. So we
Oh
have to be
God.
ready for that.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never, I'm, as Professor would know, very, very interested in the response to the children.
Hmm.
And we know full well that Jamaica would have very limited resources in terms of mental health and, whatever skills associated with that. But it's, as you mentioned before, it's all hands on deck.
And that, mhm.
And so, again, Professor mentioned the list. And on that list, each child, we should be looking forward to making a list who lost loved ones, whether
Mm.
it's friends or family, who
Mhm.
lost their homes,
Mhm.
Mhm.
um, and who are showing signs of trauma or
Mhm.
anxiety. And a list should be made about with these children's names because they
Yes.
are going to have trouble coping. Now, the
Mhm.
teachers themselves will have their own problems.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yes, but they now also need guidance how to identify.
Identify. Mhm.
So if they see a child giving trouble or acting whichever way, instead of seeking to punish first,
Uh-huh.
they must now understand where that child
Right.
is coming
Mhm.
from.
Right.
And if
Yes.
they have a list, they will know to look out for Dale Brown, look out for
Mhm.
Trevor Smith because his mother died, or
Yeah.
whomever died in his
Mhm.
family, or he lost his home, you know.
That
And
is true.
just so, any thoughts on that particular, what I just mentioned? Any thoughts on that?
So as part of that all hands call, actually, I have a colleague of mine, well, childhood friend. We actually went to primary school together. Who's a psychiatrist now in New York, and he's actually rendered aid to the guidance counseling staff, when they had some difficult cases, to deal with in the past. And
Mhm.
there are a few people that have been trying to put together a group of medical, professionals, or mental health professionals, to actually go to Jamaica.
Mhm.
I don't know if a time frame has been established, but to your point, though, we are focusing a lot, or we talked about the kids themselves. But the teachers, we're asking them to return to work to teach, but they might not have gotten their home situation straightened out. And
Right.
every day they leave, they worry that somebody will go in and steal everything because it's not fully secure. So all these type of things we need to make sure that's there. So there are some groups out there that are in the United States, in the diaspora, who are basically talking about going down and rendering some assistance. The friend that I mentioned has indicated a willingness to assist or lend guidance as best he can towards that venture. But it all comes with first recognizing
Mhm.
the issue, and then basically communicating to everyone, even ahead of time, where the resources are. So you can be looking at them, but you can also let them know ahead of time, hey, if you are feeling this, reach out to such. We are here to help. We will be your source. Now, yeah, you have to think in terms of some mentality will just try to get some money out of you. And that's understood that they may need it. And don't think that it's always about scamming you. But we have to first understand that where we can help, we must help. But we must understand that the issue itself is not just about a child who is acting out, but a child that may be begging for that last stretch of who is reaching out somehow, but just don't know how to communicate to you that he needs that help. And these are the kids who are not socialized because of COVID, the absence of being around others who will
Mhm.
lash out in the wrong way because they don't know how to communicate it. So we need to make sure that we make ourselves available to them and communicate to them that we are there for them. And that's all we can do at this point.
Yes.
Um, and then make sure the resources are there. I don't know specifically what the government is planning in that area. I do know there was a mention of social workers being made available to the schools through the Ministry of Education. I haven't seen the plan on that or any additional information on it, so I can't speak to it specifically, but I know there are some things out there from the
Mhm.
government side, but I do know from the diaspora side, there are also some people talking about going down to render assistance.
Okay, good. Good.
Any comments, Professor?
Well, this platform is available not only for us over here, but for some of the people we have on the ground down there.
Mhm.
Or principals from, Cornwall College, or principals from Montego Bay Girls School, or principals from the various, because they they have a hands-on, relationship with what's happening. Because one might be able to say to you, I have two kids who doesn't have any shoes,
Mm.
and they're not coming to school because they don't have any shoes.
Mhm.
That was disclosed to me in one think tank we had a couple years back. I had a member who used to work in the education ministry department. I said, there are the kids who not come to school because they don't have any breakfast. And hungry picnic can't learn, so. We
Mm.
have kids who not come to school because they don't have any shoes and they don't want to come to school barefoot. It brought tears to my eyes because we are looking at giving roofs and science labs and all the different things that to upgrade what we have. And we hear that, well, a percentage don't come because they don't have any shoes, sir. So when you get that information, it make you a little bit more conscious,
Mhm. Mhm.
okay? And we can only utilize this platform to do what it was designed to do. Share information,
Mhm.
motivate our people, let them know that we have a space that is thinking about them, talking about them, okay? Because everything that we have been doing for the last hour is about them,
Mhm.
okay? And they cannot say, well, nobody cares. Nobody's even talking about us. How do we know anybody's in? I mean, even as we are drowning, and I say help, how do I know anybody hear me?
Mhm.
Okay? How do I know that somebody hear me when I say help? So we have to utilize every means we have to let them know that, no, we're not going to forget about them in 2 weeks or in 2 months or in 2 years. Okay? Because this is not a headache. This is more like a cancer. Okay?
Neville, you mentioned the foundation.
Mhm.
What exactly is that? Because that's not something many persons would be familiar with.
Okay, so in the past, Cornwall College had a trust. That trust has been disbanded. The intention originally was to make Cornwall a trust school, right? So basically, it is a government school. We're hoping that we could put it under management of a trust, and then basically be able to do some things in terms of development, even of the lands that technically belong to Cornwall College, but it's technically under the land agency. So the foundation was formed as a group that takes on the bigger issues at Cornwall College. So, for instance, several years ago, I was part of a master plan committee, and the master plan committee itself was designed to identify the shortcomings of Cornwall College currently in terms of both infrastructure, even the curriculum itself was looked at, and so on. But we came together with a plan. So a lot of what has happened now with some of the buildings that got damaged, the master plan committee identified these as potential problems long term, where we say these buildings are susceptible to climate events and they need to be replaced with something more modern that is more resilient to climate. We actually have a full drawing, full rendering of the building. There are classrooms and labs that the school doesn't currently have that we actually our boys go over to Mount Alverna to use theirs. That would be housed in this new building. And we actually went so far as to submit all the plans to the ministry for approval. So the foundation's role in this instance would be to take on the bigger challenges that Cornwall College faces. And basically you're talking about a project that, you know, sorry, I can take on the smaller project that is a $20,000 project of renovation of a small building. Um, but to build this big building that you're hoping to do with the government, you probably need to come up with a couple $1 million to get this done. You're talking
Right.
about new staff room, you're talking about a food lab, food science lab, and all these different things. Those are the type of things that the foundation is designed to do. Take on the bigger challenges and then coordinate with everybody else, all the chapters and all the alumni across the world. They would basically filter through this one body that takes on this massive challenge of the ask and then try to get it met by dealing with the members of the chapters themselves. So basically, a chapter president would be part of that decision process. So they're not excluding the chapters, but it's being done as an oversight body, so to speak. The chapters are still free to do whatever they want to do.
Right.
But the bigger projects, the foundation will not only take on, but they'll take it on fully, look at the funding, and then look at who oversees it on the ground to make sure it's carried through from start to finish within specs, within cost. I personally don't like cost overruns. I don't do them. I spec my projects out completely before I take them on. So the foundation's job in this instance would be to take something on, identify this massive challenge that they have, identify the solution for it, identify the sourcing for that solution, and then execute the plan to get it done.
Yes.
Professor?
Well, those are the type of projects that need to come out of the diaspora. Solid, well thought out projects, because we are not tapping into the resources that we can get from the diaspora to scale, because we do not have enough projects put in front of some of the foundations here. Okay. So that qualifies. Okay. I mean, we know about Habitat for Humanity. Can we get them to come into Jamaica to build 1,000 homes. That's what they do. Okay? But in order for that to evolve, we have to be able to identify space and all the different things that makes it, that fits into their plan, into their system. Okay? That's just one example. We have a need for housing right now. The Prime Minister says that the housing that they're looking for, the prefab that can be assembled as soon as they arrive in Jamaica, he's not expecting the first shipment until January to arrive. That's the last thing, that was his last communique. That yes, they're getting them because that is, they can't go to brick and mortar right now because they don't have the necessary raw materials to do that.
Exactly.
They have to assemble. But not
reassemble.
Reassemble. But we're not gonna get those until January. And yes, the mosquitoes don't have any timeline, and there's too much water in Jamaica right now.
That's right.
Okay? Too much water. And we're not talking about half to, to give people half to spray themselves to at least keep some of the mosquitoes from feasting on them.
Yeah, we have the dengue, the Zika, the whatever,
Yes.
chikungunya, all of these things.
So the fear right now is the breakout of diseases. Okay? People using water that they think is clean because it is coming out from under a rock.
Yep.
But the water from the rock came from a place where there was a dead cow lying up there. Okay? So the days when spring water is clean, it can't be clean at the bottom if it's polluted at the top.
And to be honest with you, this is part of where our own bad practices in some areas create the problem. The dumping in the gullies, etc. A lot of these things trigger some of the problems we're currently seeing now. Now, in a lot of these communities, that has nothing to do with that, obviously. I mean, you're literally seeing water. I mean, I was joking with someone at Manchester, look, that didn't get them first river. Because the water was just coming up so much.
Yes.
So you look at these things and you say, all right, so how does this get addressed? And we have to just really just prepare for it. Think about it, we're right at the end of November. You're talking about December, no home. January, the first shipment arrives. You're talking about February 1st, before the first one actually has the foundation laid, unless they are pre-planned in such a way that you have 40 foundations laid out, so when they come, you drop them right on, if that is the type of building it is. So, that's where the planning come into place. What are we doing now? What are we doing proactively? Are we spec'd out so well that we can, before the first one unit arrives, that everything is ready for it to simply be dropped into place and almost, just put together and we're ready to go.
Yes, because that people are leaving the shelters and they're going back to their property because they want to see or they want to start. And I never saw mosquito netting on the list.
You are right.
Okay?
You are right.
I mean,
you are so. Matter of fact, you know what you also didn't see on the list? 1 million cans of off.
yes, that's what I'm saying, that part of the system
Excellent. No, seriously.
was not visible.
Until you said that, I did not even think of it.
I mean, we need tents like all the army bivouac with tents, so you can set up tent on high ground so when they sleep at night, they can shut themselves. I mean, it's crazy that this is not something that we were prepared for physically, mentally, not even spiritually.
Cornwall has an office field that I'm surprised has not yet turned into a makeshift tent city, run by the government to allow some people to stay there.
All them soccer fields, man, you should have, tent should be lined up, even if it's only the children you put there, and the women and the children. I mean, it's a disaster of unexpected and unlimited. And so we learning. I understand we're not blaming, we are identifying. Okay? There's no blame to go around here.
No,
When
no.
Mother
This is just
Nature
a
come,
yeah.
there is no blame. When earthquake hit you, there is no blame. But we learn. Okay? So those are some of the things I'm saying that we have to look at the ripple effects of what is happening now. Going forward, what do we do for December? And it's haunting me. What do we do for the children so that they can say, yes, we know that our life was interrupted, but you know, if we say December is the birth and of Christ's birthday, then we still want to celebrate his birth. Okay?
Yep.
Because that is part of the spiritual part that I'm talking about. You know? That's a part of the spiritual.
But for the grace of God go I.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, well, Professor, it's in good hands.
Yes.
We have Neville and his team leading the charge, and you wouldn't want it in anybody else's hands.
Right.
He's one of the persons that you'd want it in his hands.
Yes.
And so we are grateful, we are thankful that we are able to provide this platform for
Yes.
Neville to express what he's doing, make people know that it's proactive. You should see the amount of persons who turn out to help with the shipment,
Yes.
you know, packing and doing all types of stuff. It is really fascinating watching them, especially when you only can contribute your eyes to see, you know, and so every little bit counts. And for a central repository, you don't want anyone else in charge of it than a person like Neville.
Yes.
And I'll say it behind his back and in front of his face. You know, you want persons like him there because when we talk about volunteerism, this is volunteerism.
Yes.
There is not dollar going to say, okay, for your travel, for your food, for your this, for your that. No, it's all coming out of pocket. And I just wanted to make sure that persons listening to this will understand how this thing works, and there's nothing where any money is being given to anyone for them to benefit in any way,
That
shape,
is
or
true.
form.
That is true.
And the example that is set will bring more to the table.
Yes.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Yeah,
So
it's hard to encourage somebody to do something you're not willing to. And once they see you do it, hopefully they say, you know what, okay, all right, I can do that.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's first you can't force anyone to volunteer. But if you're going to encourage them to volunteer, let them see you be willing to do the same thing you're asking them to do.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So any closing remarks, Neville? Because as you know, platform is yours, and we're looking for an update perhaps by Christmas.
Okay.
You know, I know you have a shipment, which was, you didn't mention how soon after the packing that the shipment went out.
Okay. So the vessel sailed the last Wednesday. We anticipate it will hit Montego Bay by this weekend. It's going to go into Kingston first. They'll move it to a smaller vessel. The vessel will go to Montego Bay. From there, it could be as much as 5 days. We're not 100% sure yet because we haven't yet gotten the arrival notice. But the intention then is to go down, hopefully right before it clears. So let me make sure you understand how it usually happens. Because it's a full container, we don't need to have the container emptied at the port to be inspected.
Right.
It will get all the scanning, it will go through all the x-rays, etc. But our intention is to have it go to the school and have the inspection officers come to the school. And as we're taking it off, the items are checked off with what it is we told them.
Manifest is good here.
And confirm that, yes, this is everything that we say it is. You know, the 4 pallets of water that is on there, it's the 4 pallets of water that is on there. So they see all these things that we put on the list. Once we've established everything and we've gotten it done by the next day, so hopefully we could be talking the beginning of the second week of December that I should be on the ground. It should take just a couple of days. I have some schools that I not only want to get the items to, I want to personally go.
Okay.
And so we'll probably try to do a little bit of that, and I'll probably do that in conjunction with Sandals. We had the existing project at Sandals, I'm sorry, at Cornwall College, which is the aquaponics that we talked about the first time.
Yes. Yes.
Thankfully, we actually didn't put it in place before the storm
Mhm.
because right where that plant would have been, two trees fell. So
Oh
they would
my.
have been wiped out. So it is the
Wow.
first time I'm upset, but happy with I was upset at the industrial arts teacher for dragging his legs, but boy am I so happy he drag his leg because now it's still available to be done. So we're gonna go ahead, put those things in. Hopefully while I'm there we can finish it, get it up and running because I want people to understand something here, there. Schools are going to have to play a role in the recovery.
Yes.
Agriculture was significantly impacted. And what we need to do now is let these schools show how it is you are going to have to start making some of your own food yourself. Now,
Wow.
everybody has a garden somewhere of some sort. A lot of them are simply a seed that was thrown out that grew, right? Now you're going to have to most likely proactively start planting some things to feed yourself because there will be a food shortage. The country is going to import a lot of food over the next year until we start getting back our crops.
Yes.
So the school will need to play that role. So in terms of that particular factor, these are the things that I want people to understand. So yes, in another week or so, I'll be on the ground. We'll empty the container, get them distributed. We'll turn over a good portion, let NET take care of it, so we won't touch those at all. But for the rest of it, we will play our role in making sure that, the schools that will get theirs, got theirs. The items that are on there slated for Malden, slated for Denby High, etc., that they all go out and basically are done. In terms of for my closing, one of the things I will say is the list is real. The problem is significant. It will be ongoing. We cannot have a short attention span this time around. We have to be willing and pace ourselves because we need to be in this for the long haul. What is happening on the island is not something that we would have ever expected to see. You expect a storm to pass through and you're like, man, that was bad, look on water. Now you're looking at completely rebuilding areas that were a development that was just done a few years ago that became a thriving community. Now there's nothing left. So you
Yeah.
have to basically now rebuild that whole thing, rebuild that whole infrastructure. The government said it doesn't have the money, and it is practical to bury all the lines, the power lines across the island. Yes, it's impractical to do so, especially because you'll get landslides. But where we can, we should to make sure we minimize the impact long term. Cornwall College will look at that. That's part of what our team will be looking at in terms of the recovery, to make sure that we bury as much as we can so that the next storm comes through. Okay, it may damage the buildings, but at least we don't have to worry about, the lines coming across. Because even that could be a problem as well. So yes, the list is long. I have a bunch of them. I need drones for the police because I don't want them to be back in a situation where there is a crisis and they can't respond.
Right.
There's someone who can't call out, but had you had the thermal camera, you could have spotted them and gotten the help to them right away, lower that basket down from the JDF helicopter, pick them out of wherever, and get them to safety. Those are the type of things I think about. Um, from Cornwall College's standpoint, getting that boarding house up and running so boys that don't have a home have a place to lay their head safely. Um, Getting some deep waders for the people who are responding to the crises. You see videos of frogs everywhere up in Content, Manchester, and all these different things. There's fecal matter in the water. There is, the rats are coming out from everywhere now. And the urine carries leptospirosis and so on. So
Yes.
get them the coverage, the PPE they need so that these are things that they can protect themselves of. It's not foolproof, but at least it gives them a better shot than walking in just their sneakers or like some of these kids who have no shoes to go to school, walking in barefooted in some of these waters. So we
Yes.
need to make sure we do what we can to help. and where the government isn't thinking, that we put our heads together and come up with it. For instance, you brought up the perfect point that I myself didn't come up with, didn't think of for 1 second, and yet is the most logical thing to think of: mosquito nets. We're going to need a whole bunch of them because all the sit in water is just going to be a problem in a few weeks. So
Yes.
all these things we have to be proactive about, and we're ready to ship when we have enough. Again, we'll look for funding to do so, but we're ready to do the work and get on the ground and get it to the people who need it most.
Yes. Yes. Well, let me thank you for your application to the situation that we are facing. And I hope that we will not stop this series, because as we have already admitted, it's not a temporary situation. So we have to keep on addressing it, upgrading and informing our diaspora as well as our friends. We have to build a campaign to encourage them to take on projects. So even if it's your church, they might decide that 1 week they're going to collect an offering just to put on the roof on another church in Jamaica. Okay, it might be the Presbyterian church in Jamaica that needs a roof. So we ask the Presbyterian church here if they could do a special collection to replace the roof. If it's a Catholic church, can you do a special collection to replace the Catholic roof? I mean, people will respond to these type of invitations to show their unselfishness and to show their Christianity. Okay? All being said, I'll thank you so much for again coming to us with valuable data that will sit right with our people, and we look forward to your return. Thank you so much, Neville. And Dale, thanking you for bringing Neville again back to our Legacy series. Thank you so much.
And again, thank you for having me as well.